10,000 steps a day. You've seen it on your fitness tracker, your phone, and even in your doctor's waiting room. But that number has an origin story, and it has nothing to do with fitness. The real story is a lot stranger and a lot more convenient for some very big companies than you've ever been told. Here's what the research actually shows. The number that matters for your health isn't 10,000. It's not even close. And the reason you've never heard that is more interesting than the number itself. Today, we're going to look at where the 10,000 rule actually came from, what the science says your body actually needs, and why the companies selling you fitness trackers have never bothered to set the record straight. By the end of this video, your daily movement goal is going to look very different. So where did 10,000 steps actually come from? In 1965, a Japanese company called Yamasa released one of the world's first commercial pedometers. They needed a name for it, so they called it the Manpo-K, which translates to 10,000 step meter. That number wasn't derived from clinical trials, and it wasn't the result of years of research into human physiology. It was a product name chosen partly because it was catchy, and partly because the Japanese character for 10,000 looks remarkably like a person walking. A branding decision made the cut, but the science didn't exist yet. Fast forward 60 years, and that same number is the default goal on every Fitbit, Apple Watch, and health app on your phone. And as recently as 2019, researchers at Harvard were still writing in medical journals that the origin of the 10,000 step goal was unclear. The most famous number in fitness history, and nobody could trace it back to a single study. So if 10,000 steps has no scientific foundation, what does the research actually say? Let's start with one of the most important walking studies ever conducted. In 2019, researchers at Harvard tracked nearly 17,000 women over 4 years, measuring their daily steps against mortality risk. What they found stopped a lot of people in their tracks. Women who averaged just 4,400 steps a day had a 41% lower risk of death compared to women averaging 2,700 steps, and the benefits kept climbing until around 7,500 steps a day. After that, the curve flattened. More steps, but no real additional benefit. Then in 2022, researchers at the University of Sydney published the largest wearable tracking study ever conducted, following 78,500 adults across the UK. Their conclusion was blunt. The 10,000 step goal is not based on evidence. It originates from a marketing campaign in Japan. In 2025, the largest review of its kind analyzed data from over 160,000 adults across 57 studies. They found that 7,000 steps a day was associated with a 47% lower risk of dying from any cause, along with a 38% reduction in dementia risk and a 22% reduction in depression. Here's what makes that even more interesting. The average American currently takes between 3,000 and 4,000 steps a day, which means most people aren't failing to hit 10,000. They're sitting just below the threshold where the research says real benefits begin. The gap isn't as large as the fitness industry wants you to think, and that's actually the most important thing this data tells you. But here's another variable to add to the equation. How fast you walk matters just as much as how many steps you take. In 2022, researchers analyzed data from 78,500 adults in the UK Biobank database, one of the largest health datasets in the world. They tracked not just how many steps people took, but how fast they were moving. People who walked with the highest intensity during their 30 most active minutes of the day had a 34% lower mortality rate than those who moved at the lowest intensity. Same general step counts, completely different outcomes. If we look at what that means practically, we have two people both hitting 7,000 steps a day. One is strolling slowly around the house. The other is walking briskly to work, heart rate elevated, breathing slightly harder. The research suggests those two people are getting meaningfully different results, and there's a simple way to know if you're walking at the right intensity. Researchers have found that 100 steps per minute is roughly equivalent to moderate intensity exercise. That's the level where your cardiovascular system is being challenged. You don't need a heart rate monitor to check. You can simply count your steps for 60 seconds on your next walk. Movement intensity and movement quantity are two completely different things, and most people are only ever told to track quantity. So if the science has been pointing away from 10,000 for years, why is it still the default on every device you own? There are a few reasons, and none of them have anything to do with your health. The first is simple inertia. The Manpo-K launched in 1965 and became a cultural phenomenon in Japan almost immediately. Walking clubs formed around it. The number spread through health magazines, government campaigns, and eventually the early fitness industry. By the time serious research started questioning it, 10,000 steps was already everywhere. The second reason is that round numbers are sticky. 10,000 is clean, memorable, and satisfying in a way that 7,300 just isn't. Nobody wants a fitness tracker that buzzes when you hit 6,840 steps. The number that fits on a marketing poster usually wins. But that's not even the part that should bother you most. The third reason is the most uncomfortable one. Fitness tracker companies have never had a financial incentive to correct it. A goal that most people never quite reach keeps users engaged, keeps them checking their devices, and keeps them feeling like they need to do more. The myth persists not because the science supports it. It persists because it was always more of a product than a prescription. So after all of that, what does the research actually suggest you do? The first thing is to throw out the pass or fail mental ILT. Health benefits from walking are not a light switch that flips on at 10,000 steps. They accumulate from the very first increase in movement. The gap between sedentary and slightly active is where the biggest gains live, and most people are closer to that line than they realize. If you're currently averaging under 5,000 steps a day, which describes most American adults, your biggest opportunity is right in front of you. Getting from 3,000 to 6,000 steps produces far more meaningful health improvements than getting from 8,000 to 10,000. The early gains are the biggest gains. That's where the research is most consistent. Pay attention to how you walk, not just how much. Remember the 100 steps per minute threshold. A 20-minute walk where your breathing is slightly elevated is doing more for your cardiovascular system than an hour of slow wandering. And consistency matters more than hitting a number. The 2025 review of over 160,000 adults found that 7,000 steady daily steps was associated with a 47% lower risk of all-cause mortality. Daily movement, consistently sustained, is what the body actually responds to. So the real target isn't 10,000. It's finding your current baseline, adding to it gradually, and walking like you mean it when you do. How many steps are you getting every day right now? And has this changed the way you will think of your daily movement target going forward? Let us know in the comments. And if this video changed how you think about your daily movement, subscribe for more videos where we break down the science that actually works for your body. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.